Thank you. Hi, everyone. Good evening. I'm excited to see some familiar faces, friends and colleagues. I'm really excited to be moderating this panel with 4 incredibly talented jewelry designers. Love jewelry. If you know me, which some of you do, there's nothing that I love more than trying on beautiful pieces. I've tried on everything here, probably to the person over looking at the jewelry saying, please put that down now. But I would love to start out by everyone introducing one another, themselves, sorry. We'll start with Vanessa.
Hi.
Fernández.
My name's Vanessa Fernández. I'm a jeweler, a goldsmith. I have a private studio where I create all my pieces by hand. I take the time to source color and diamonds. I'm really particular with where my stones are coming from. And I work directly with my clients privately. And basically, I source color, I source diamonds, I go back and I make wax pieces by hand. I cast and I start to finish. The pieces are in my studio with me. Yeah, and I don't know how much more you want me to talk about.
We're gonna get into
that's a brief
details.
description. I have a private studio and I create jewelry by hand.
Thank you.
I'm Rosario Navia. I am from Argentina and I've been in the States for over 20 years, but 13 years in New York. So as everyone knows, means I'm a real New Yorker by this point. I produce everything in New York City. I'm a graduate gemologist, so I source all my diamonds here as well. So we're very proud of producing everything in the Diamond District. I started, like you've heard, our fine jewelry line in October of 2020, and since then we have elevated it greatly. And yeah, I do bridal, custom, fine jewelry, and anything you want, really.
Hi, everyone.
Gator.
I'm Alligator Jesus from Los Angeles, born and raised in Miami, Cuban-American jeweler that studied in Miami and came up in a culture of jewelry being a part of everyone's everyday, and brought that to Los Angeles where we make custom pieces, mostly for celebrities, but also for everyday people, and bring a art practice of treating everything like a special piece to everything that we do.
Thank you. Paula.
I am Paula Mendoza. I study first journalism. I'm your colleague. And then I started making jewelry as a hobby. Like I was like really looking to change the way that I communicate with people through the things that I wear. And I found jewelry the perfect vehicle to communicate what I was feeling. So I started making jewelry really by just, I don't know, putting some beads in little beads together and making my own jewelry in a very experimental way. And then when I started getting clients, I was like, well, I think I need to study jewelry. So then I studied sculpture in the Corcoran Institute in Washington, D.C. And then I started learning about metals and stones and everything. And I love volume and big pieces, as you can tell. So then I just started making just sculptures that became jewels. And then this happened 20 years ago, so I started selling jewelry to different type of clients, and then I decided to start my company and move to New York, and I start selling properly jewelry. These are part of my pieces, my collection, and as you can see, everything is very inspired and pre-Columbian jewelry that is very bold and rich, and the gold is really, really, really colorful.
Thank you. Vanessa, we heard a little bit about how you started the company, your use of color. We've seen, if you guys had an opportunity to see it, you'll see that your jewelry is very colorful and bold. Tell us a little bit about why you started your line and what this process was like for you being in Miami.
Yeah, so I've always been obsessed with jewelry since I was a little girl. And I think that I got to the point when I first started university that I decided that this was truly my passion and what I wanted to pursue. So I ended up transferring out of the university I was at, and I went to art school, and I decided to pursue this as a career. I was doing jewelry and metals classes, and after I graduated with a bachelor's in fine arts, I had a really unique opportunity, and I moved to Bali, Indonesia, and I worked with Guy Badarita and John Hardy, and that's where I learned how to render one-to-one, which was really important and really special, and not something I learned in art school, which was really focused in conceptual design and experimental, working with experimental materials, which is something I really enjoyed, and I still do to this day. After that opportunity, I was able to work with someone who really loved color in Paris, Lorenz Baumer, who at the time was the head designer for Louis Vuitton, and I learned to design even more efficiently and effectively. And I think that's really where color was really like instilled in me in Paris. And I came back and I started my own line because I wanted to produce my own pieces, and that was back in 2014.
But it's really interesting that you were telling me earlier that every single one of your rings is different. You're doing making the pieces, and there's so much jewelry that we see out there that's produced in a machine, which is not to give it, obviously it's hard work, but like your pieces are truly one of a kind.
Thank you so much, yes. I mean, all the color that I source is non-commercial, so it's all fine, exotic, like very special and rare. And I mean, that's important to me. The pieces that I make take time. They're not quickly made, and I don't even mold the piece after it's made. So this piece right here, if it sells, somebody wants me to make it again, I make it again by hand, and that's really important to me. So.
And do people, obviously they have to be patient.
Yeah, that's right. They have to be patient. I'm so sorry. I have people that I've been waiting for a while, but listen, it's a piece of art, you know what I mean? So it's not, it's always gonna be one of a kind, and it's really important for me to know who I'm making it for too. I was talking to you about that earlier, you know what I mean? So that's another thing to point out. Wholesale is really interesting, and I'm very selective where my pieces are. I only have two retailers right now, which is, and I'm still expanding, but we have to build a relationship, a bond, you know what I mean?
It's important, and I feel like the four of you have that in common. You're not doing the traditional route in
No.
retail, for example, which I think is, I think when I started working in fashion 20 years ago, there was a certain path for jewelers, there was a certain path for an accessories designer, fashion, and all of those rules kind of changed. Yeah. And I think, for jewelers, a lot of them would, stores would only buy you on consignment, so it was really hard, to build a business.
Send us your line sheet. It's really always here, but we don't operate that way, I guess.
And you don't have one, right? Because everything you make is one of a kind, and I think that there are still a lot of retailers, though, that do really appreciate that, and I think the old-fashioned trunk show, you can say it, that's kind of like the way people are shopping. It kind of never goes out of fashion in a way, even though it is like a very traditional way of working. I always think it's really interesting to introduce customers, to meet new customers, to meet people, and I always think that's a really great way to, go into the market. Yeah. Rosario, you said something really interesting, that you started your company in 2020. What was that like?
Interesting. I've been doing jewelry since high school. That's when I learned. And then I worked in fashion for 10 years. And at nighttime, I would go to FIT and take more classes just to get studio time. And in 2018, I decided to officially move over to jewelry, and I became a gemologist, a graduate gemologist at GIA. And then before the pandemic, January, February, I was thinking about, okay, do I really want to do this, launch on my own? And the answer was yes. But then the pandemic happened, and it was really interesting because everyone was home, right? And people wanted to reward themselves. They weren't spending money on other things, and jewelry had a great, obviously it was a horrible time, but jewelry had a great uptick back then. So it was interesting. It was all direct to consumer. Nothing retail until recently because that's what the market demanded.
I think it was a really interesting, I mean, you would hear a lot of, at least friends that maybe didn't buy jewelry that started to buy jewelry. You know, they had a little bit more money for not traveling or doing extra things, and they wanted to invest in a nice ring and something that would, you know, take them much more than a handbag or a pair of shoes.
And
So
it's
you
like,
wouldn't scream, no? So then you have to put jewelry in your face.
Yeah, you needed some pretty
in your
earrings.
meetings. So yeah, I think.
but it's also a very emotional purchase, right? Jewelry. So I think at that time, like I said, people were just trying to reward themselves, but they wanted something that could transcend that time and make them think of, you know, nicer days. And I think that's what jewelry did for a lot of people. So a way to escape the reality.
Absolutely.
And especially, I think, jewelers like ourselves that are making this stuff ourselves, we were in a position where we could find ways to be resourceful and keep making jewelry, whereas the Louis Vuittons and Gucci's were running out of stock of everything online because they relied on factories and then a whole system to deliver to the consumers of the stores. And all of a sudden, we're just working from home, I guess, most of us. And
Yeah, that's right. And if I can say something about that, every now and then I'll get the client that has like the emergency need. You know, Vanessa, can you make me something? I need it in 48 hours. And I'm like,
What happens then?
I'm like, fine,
Over
I'll help
time?
you. But like, you know, it's because of that. Because it's like, you're there making it. You're not relying on a ton
Absolutely.
of people.
Right, and you're able to.
And I love that. Yeah.
quicker.
yeah.
Alligator, tell us, we were speaking a little bit backstage about your career in, like, moving to LA.
Yeah.
You did not start off making jewelry.
Not at all.
How did you come into this world?
Well, I was an art director at a museum in Miami, and then I got a job offer I couldn't refuse. I kept refusing it, and they kept doubling the salary, then tripling. They really wanted me. I came out to work in the contemporary art world at an art gallery in Culver City, and it was through the connections in the art world that I started meeting then producers and working in film. I'd already done film, and in that world, you are relying on a whole network of people and your network of buyers and collectors and whatnot, which coming from Miami, where I was a poor kid from the lower middle class family, I didn't have that kind of wealth to throw around to buy art pieces, but I was dealing with these people, and all of a sudden they would find out that like I was the one who made the interesting jewelry that I was wearing. I was slowly building up my clientele through there, and then it was definitely through the underground. I was making grills in nightclubs, and I would be every Saturday night.
Like on the side?
On the side, yeah. Midnight to 6 a.m. at like BDSM, after hours, techno nightclubs, taking molds for grills. And then people would come the next week and pick up their grill from me.
And were you using gold, silver?
Yeah, gold and diamonds and silver and everything. But like, I would just really find the interesting people that are in the nightlife. Because, you know, even the people in the fashion, they're still going out at night and to after hours. They might be like suit and tie
A lot.
at night. They are in latex and lingerie at the clubs. And those people were finding me like, there's a jeweler at this after hours? What's going on? And then they'd find my pedigree or connections to people and like, you have a degree in this? What the heck? Weren't you at the Gagosian gallery opening like last week? Like, so yeah, I started to build up this whole network of people that were then coming back and return clientele. And then that was super underground, you know, throughout the 2000 teens. And then 2020, I finally registered my business and decided to, you know, hit the online shopping really hard starting in January 2020. And then I was perfectly positioned for when the pandemic happened as an opportunity to serve these people and make the online sales. But I did still break COVID protocol and had people pulling up. I would be in full PPE, crack the window, get their mold through the window, through the cracked window.
Oh yeah, because you had to.
Yeah,
it was very on contact.
Johnny Dang told me I was like the only guy making grills in the world. And then I quickly found out like for about 3 months, I was the only one making grills in the entire world because no one wanted to go near a mouth, not even 6 feet. But I'm like grabbing your impression through the car window, throwing it in a bag of bleach and working in my studio at home. Pull up to my house next week and you'll have your grill. So I still found a way to be resourceful. I guess it was my upbringing as a Cuban. The Cubans always find a way, is what that means. And like, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We're tenacious,
Yeah.
you could say. Yeah. Paula, I've known you for very long time, and you brought your Colombian spirit and alegría, I don't know, joy, which is the only way I can describe her, full of color, to New York with your, jewelry that's very bold and colorful and just very special. Then you moved back to Colombia. You surprised everyone and moved back to Colombia because...
Surprised myself.
Because you have always worked with artisans. What has this been like for you, and why did you go back, and why was it important for you why has it always been important for you to work with Colombian artisans?
Well, for me was, and always when I start having difficulties working in Colombia because of many reasons, I got offers go and produce in Dominican Republic, go and produce in Mexico. But I think I was living here for 20 years, and for me it was so important to keep working with Colombia. I'm from Colombia. I would like to open a company there and grow there, and it's just a way that I will be in contact with my country. So it was always really, really important. But going back and forth, I ended up working with one of the most important companies there, that is Cano, that works with all the molds from the Museum of Gold. So that was a beautiful experience for me, because I really understood where my designs were coming from, without doing my designs very conscious. I'm finding my inspiration in pre-Columbian jewelry. It wasn't something that I was doing on purpose, but then when I started working with Cano, I was oh wow, yes, I was going back to my roots, in a way that it was not conscious. And then I worked with them, and then I got the opportunity to visit the museum and to see private collections from from the Museum of Gold, and it definitely opens my mind in a way that it was unbelievable. And then in these trips, I met my today husband, so this is why I moved back to Colombia. so now I'm back in Colombia. I'm really happy to be there, working very close to my family and to the people that has been working with me forever. So it's good, and I'm happy going back there.
And you've opened a few shops there?
And I opened, I changed completely with the pandemic as well. I changed completely the model of my business, because when I started, I was first having private clients and doing private pieces, but then I moved to New York, and I was wow, I think I should open my company, and I started going to stores. And the way to do that was going to market. So, let's go to market. Yes, New York, but no, maybe Paris. So then I went to Paris. I remember I asked you to come to my first show, I don't know, 15 years ago. I was the only Colombian there in Paris, showing. And then I was wow, this is incredible, because it's a way to get into the stores and start getting recognition, and it was good. But then when the pandemic started, I took all my jewelry from the 42 stores that I sell my jewelry around the world, and I was I think I'm going to change the model. So we start building a different type of website and going direct to consumer and changing everything. So this is what we are trying now, and the idea is to go to certain retailers, but then to just focus in our clients and through our website and through retail stores. So I opened the store in Bogota and another one in Medellin, and we opened the warehouse in Mexico. So I'm going to Mexico quite often, and we open in Madrid, and then here in New York that we have the warehouse as well. So the idea is to get to our clients as fast as we can. Yeah.
And if you go to Medellin, which we go once a year for the big Colombia Moda, Paula's is a must stop. So I think it's really interesting on that note to ask each of you exactly this question, why did the retail model change? How I think social media obviously helped all of us communicate, me with our audience in a different way, but each of you to find clients and customers and do things your own way. Can you talk a little bit about this?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, my brand, Instagram actually is what helped me build my business because, and I'll tell you why.
Eva Chen will be very happy.
I'm a very behind the scenes person. I share so much content from my studio firsthand. Like, I'm sharing the investment that I'm mixing to pour into my flask so it can cure and I can put it in my kiln, and then tomorrow morning you're gonna see me cast it. Like, I'm showing how I'm mixing pure gold with the alloy that's also like unique to my studio, it's private. Like, I'm basically taking you through the entire process. There are very few things which I keep like very private, but
Your address.
yeah, but I think that, you know, when I first started doing it, I was a little like anxious to be sharing so much, but I find that that's actually what makes people feel connected. You know, they're seeing the process of how something's created, and they're like, wow, that's so cool. Like, can you make something like that for me? Can you find me, you know, a particular gem? And I'll be like, yes, I'll find it for you. Yes, I'll make it for you. And, you know, a lot of these clients that put in orders with me, they actually see their pieces come to life. And that's why sometimes when a piece is finished, I say, you know, a curva is born. You know, that's the name of my collection. And it's like, you're watching the process, which is so intimate, but like, I'm holding your hand throughout, you know, the entire way. And so I think that Instagram's really helped me build my business. I mean, like, I would say, you know, 80% of my clients.
And I was thinking about when we were talking earlier, and then Alligator, you just mentioned, you know, your pieces have been on Bad Bunny. What happens when you get that DM from someone particularly famous? What does that feel like? Do you want to tell us a little bit about yours?
Yes, I mean, it's interesting, you know. You want me to talk about?
If you want to. I think it would be
it would be fun, yes. Yeah, so, you know, the White House came to me 3 years ago, and, you know, they were like, Vanessa, do you want to create 48 custom brooches for the summer 2021 Olympics? And I said yes. And they gave me the job, and I've been working with them ever since. And, you know, that's one of those that's like, oh my God, you know, like, is this really happening? And yeah, so that's an example.
It was real.
It was real. Yeah, I'm fortunate. And, you know, I think like as a Latina, as a minority, as a woman, as someone who's, you know, in this industry is so traditionally, you know, male, I think it's just so important that every time I get an opportunity with them, I execute that jewelry as best as I can. The quality of craftsmanship is like the most important thing to me.
Do you think there's higher expectations because you're a Latina woman?
I just think that I have less opportunity to mess up. And, you know, I hope that I can help other women, you know, to have opportunities like this. These are rare. This is a rare opportunity, you know, and somebody might say, oh, you deserve it, you've worked so hard. Like, no, actually, there's a lot of people who deserve things and work so hard and they don't get those opportunities. So I really have to, like, honor it. It's my responsibility to honor it. And so...
Can you take a little longer with them or not so much?
They are definitely the, Vanessa, you have 48 hours.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm always like, whatever you want, Jill.
That's amazing.
I'm your girl.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Rosario, what has the retail model been like for you? And has there been this, it could be a person or a retailer that you're like, I'm so excited.
So like I said earlier, I started with direct to consumer, so I feel like I'm doing the opposite model. Direct to consumer and custom pieces for people, and now delving into the whole wholesale market. I did say earlier that I have a trunk show coming up with Bergdorf's, which is like my dream retailer, so that kind of feels like your like White House moment, even though it's completely different, but it's a place where a lot of people would want to get into, so I'm very proud of that.
Was it expected or was it
No,
you were?
it was like a cold call, email, and next day come see the stuff, and yeah, so it happened like that, so that was crazy. But talking about being a female in this industry, I actually think that that's really hard, but also being a Latino person is that most of the time we are first generation jewelers. And in an industry where it's a lot of families and multi-generational businesses, I think for us, it is harder to break in and to get noticed. So having like big retailers interested in your things, in your pieces, it's, you know, kind of crazy when it happens. Or when even a customer, it's the same thing if a customer reaches out to you and it's like, oh, I want you to make this for my 40th anniversary. It's like, okay, you're choosing me to be a part of that experience with you. And it's something to be like very happy and I'm obviously very honored to go through that journey with the customer. So it's great.
Thank you. Alligator.
Yeah, I think social media has given us an opportunity to invent our own lane and explore how we're going to do this, because the traditional models of having a family business that has an established way of working, it's hard to break that way, that old school way, my grandfather, my father's way of thinking, and do something new. I remember sitting at a JCK seminar in 2016, and there was a panel about using social media and the internet, and some old guy was like, no one's gonna do this. Why would anyone wanna buy something they can't hold in their hand? And this young girl that was just like 21 or 22 stood up and said, excuse me, old man, but I make $1 million in sales a month. Can you shut up? We're trying to hear the speaker. And she has an only online business. And I was like, holy crap. This girl, you know, took to Instagram and really made a name for herself. She has a huge business. And with us not having physical stores or the typical New York route or LA route, we don't have the anxiety of having, as you might know, these guys don't own all that jewelry in their shop. They're buying wholesale, they're buying on memo. They have $1 million loan of stuff that they have to sell, and they hate their jobs and they look stressed, and they're in a prison cell sitting at that booth trying to sell that stuff for a markup. Versus us, we get to be creative and invent our stuff. And as long as our nugget or our overhead is taken care of, we get to relieve ourselves with creating art. You know, we are creating the pieces we want to make rather than being stuck with creating a new season of stuff for 1 million stores that, and you know, it's a real freedom that you got to pull things back and do things your way. And that's a new model that we're really exploring and defining, and hopefully inspiring other kids that are learning jewelry now to see us as examples of there's a success outside of the established model of doing things.
Not only with retail, but also all of you with marketing in a way, right?
Yeah,
like the
absolutely.
way that your brand came about, the way that you started, the way that you communicate is so interesting.
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
You know, we saw that Bad Bunny,
Yeah.
where your grills, like, you told me a little bit about the opals.
Yeah.
How did the opals come about? You, by the way, I don't know how many of you are familiar with this, but if you have opals, opals can't touch water.
Yeah.
And yet.
Yeah, they're in my mouth every day, and we work with a company called Bello Opal from Hong Kong, and Sanwa Pearl and Bello Opal have over 20 years of inventing opal, and they are better than natural opals. But natural opals take millions of years to form, and they're so precious and so amazing, but they are also so fragile. I had a friend who bought a very expensive piece from somebody else, and they wore perfume on their necklace, and in 3 days, all those beautiful opals turned gray and brown, and they were done.
Were they not?
They were natural opals, but they weren't given instruction on how to care for opals. And these days, people aren't wearing jewelry like it's a precious thing that you wear to an event or to a ball or to a dinner. They're wearing it every day. It really becomes a part of them and their identity of who they are. So it's great that, you know, through technology, there are these new materials that we can use, new gemstones, new crystals, new structures, and new things that are giving us jewelers a new way to be creative with this stuff. Of course, you know, natural diamonds are the most precious thing and amazing to use. And then, you know, you got new stones, new colors, new things that are being invented. I was on a FaceTime with a client today who he wanted a grill that matches his hair color, and it's this weird blue that doesn't exist in the natural world. But being in Hong Kong last month, I met a factory that has invented a stone with that color, and now I can have them millier it and make the stones for that grill. So it's crazy how technology is allowing us to really be expressive and do new things and really create stuff for people. This new model, a new way of creating is really something beautiful for all of us.
Yeah, and it's interesting to see the way people are wearing, because I didn't think of opals before. When I think of a grill, I think of diamonds, and I think it's so interesting that you've chosen to kind of bring color to show color in a whole new different way.
Well, we can thank Lil Nas X. He has over 29 grills from me at this point. And we're making number 30. We're making number 30 right now, today, that is going to be ready tomorrow, and it's going to go into yet another wax figure at Madame Tussauds. So it's like, it's really people that are taking risks in the spotlight, like him. And Madonna, of course, she's another person who's been wearing grills for 3 decades, and she's wearing and pushing the envelope with the stuff that she's wearing. And these people really push fashion, and it's great that we have that access to them, or they've found us through our network of friends and friends of friends in fashion, that it gives us the ability to shine a spotlight on this stuff that we're doing. So marketing.
Yeah, I think that there's nothing better, than a recommendation when someone comes to you because someone had an amazing experience, and that's part of, I think, what you guys are doing so differently, and you each are doing it in your own way.
Yeah. And people like Peso Pluma and Bad Bunny, they're taking risks with what they're wearing these days, and they're looking great on the red carpet or white carpet on Met Gala. It's really cool, because then they can come to us and have these really insane ideas, and we collaborate on something. Yeah.
Paula, tell us a little bit about, your customers and how, these moments where how do you connect with your customers now that, for example, you have a warehouse here in New York, but not a freestanding store? It's you live in Colombia, so you're coming back and forth.
Well, like for me, like moving back to Colombia was like a decision that I have to kind of like think how I want to stay in this business, no? Because like there are so many jewelry designers and so many talented jewelry designers, and in New York every day is like the most amazing every day. So like how you are present in a market if you don't live in the market. So for me it was like really important to keep like having like a warehouse or a place that people can still buy me. But at the same time, I think I need a retailer that have the physical pieces so people can try them. And for your question about like how the business changed, and people always ask me, and I ask you when I met you, how about like, like getting into celebrities or PR or all these things. And then for me, Instagram is the best instrument that you can really get into clients that you don't know who can, text you or send you a message. And then when the Beyonce stylist contact me, it was through Instagram, and then I thought, oh my God, I'm going to get robbed, because they said this is for Beyonce. I was like, really? How did that happen? But then I sent the jewelry. I was like, well, if I get robbed, it's Beyonce, so I don't know. but then it happens, and then it really changed my business, because it really put you on the spot. So I think like for any designer that want to start their business, Instagram is free. And then you just have to kind of like be very conscious in what you are putting there. Yeah. And then what is the message that you want to kind of like share, because it's your work, it's your point of view. If you do that personally, I think we all kind of like do that. And I think it's the best way to get the attention of the people that one day can be Bad Bunny or whoever like a stylist can get into your jewelry.
I think it's important to note that it's never really always Beyonce reaching out to you, but
no,
someone adjacent. It's always like the stylist or the photographer or a friend of a friend.
What about
too.
with you, that you have to like measure, like does it?
I mean, yeah,
I was about to ask you, like, how does that?
We fly around a lot.
Okay.
We spend more time outside of LA.
It's customized. You can't.
Yeah,
but you need to be a dentist. Go
yeah,
to all your.
You do need that, and technology. That's another thing. Like using technology, the dental scans can be done in any major city in the world, and those can be emailed to me. Within minutes, I have that being 3D printed to make the model for making the grills. And personally, I've been creating a network of jewelers around the world that do what I do, so that we can all work together. I was working on a project that needed to make grills for a musician, but he's on tour, and I can't get to him while he's out there. So I have my network in London catch up with him with the 30 minutes that they had for him, get his mold, and then we work together to make the piece. And it's more of a team effort.
Right, it's
And-
like a collaboration.
Yeah, and that I think is kind of like the Latin in me, like the Cuban in me, that we work together, we create a community. When I go to Cuba, everything is a community down there. Everything gets done through mi socio, mi primo, my friends. Oh no, everyone knows somebody to get something done, so you have to work together. And I brought that to a community of jewelers that are historically just at each other's throats, talking trash to one another. In Miami, literally killing each other, and now it's like not like that.
And you don't want to share your clients or your customer, but you're thinking the opposite.
I'm thinking the complete opposite, and that could have crushed my business, but instead it's only grown. And then I can land in any city, and I have friends, and I have resources, and because I'm helping them, and I'm making molds in LA, and then sending those files to Korea, Japan, Greece, Germany, London, for them to make the grills for those clients that are in LA that want their work. We all kind of develop our own signature or our own styles, and now people are collecting grills from grill makers around the world, and it's created this new market for us. And I have my clientele, we did the numbers, and it's mostly women over 30. That's not usual for grills, but when you have Naomi Campbell's in 50, Madonna in 65, the averages start going up, but the markets are different in different parts of the world. And then, we're seeing a huge rise in Asia, especially in China, with pop stars and K-pop stars wearing grills. XG is on a world tour, and they're in the US right now, and they are one of the hottest pop bands out there, and they're all wearing grills on the cover of their album, on stage, and it's starting to create new markets, and people are starting to see it everywhere. And it's great when, I don't think of it as just a Latin thing anymore. It's not just a Miami thing, but now it's grown to encompass the entire world. The whole planet is wearing this fashion statement.
I think also that probably could have to do with a lot of the Latino
Oh yeah.
stars that in the past couple of years, just from Colombia alone, you have Karol G, J Balvin, Maluma.
Yeah.
From Mexico, Peso Pluma, and then you have we've seen kind of these different, we did reggaeton, and now we're a little bit going into the Mexican country.
Oh yeah.
Is
Yeah.
like Grupo Frontera, and like different groups that, I was at a show here in New York for Patricio Campillo, and I heard Bronco, which I don't know if you guys even know who Bronco, it's like a country band from Mexico.
Yeah.
And I was like, never in my adult life did I think I was gonna hear Bronco at a fashion show in New York City. But I think it's, this influence that we are seeing, and maybe that's why, young kids are, like my friend's son, who goes to, private school, and here in the city, he wants a grill. Like, that's his dream. And he was so, he's 12, but
Yeah.
he's watching Bad Bunny and Peso Pluma and these guys, listening to them.
That's cool.
And really watching closely to what they're wearing. So I think, we talked a little bit about this, but I'm interested to hear from you guys how your particular Latino experience, I'm from the border. We have 2 Cubans from Miami. You grew up in Argentina, but have now been in New York. And Paula, you grew up in Colombia, lived in New York for a bit. How has the Latino experience shaped your business or your creativity and inspiration?
I'll say I definitely think there's a reason why I named my latest collection and work curva versus curve. And that would have to do probably with, curva in Spanish is very different than curve in English. So curva automatically becomes feminine, and it insinuates something sensual, and that's what the work is. What I'm making is very sculptural, and I like to think it's bold but feminine, and even though I am Latina, I wouldn't say that being Latina is the reason has anything to do with the kind of work I'm making, but rather it's still important though that I named it curva. And so, yeah, another thing I would say is that, how you just said, tenacious, we're tenacious, we work very hard. I think that as a Latina, I've found that I've had to work extra hard. I've had to push through a lot of times, and you have to have that motivation and that drive to push forward, and maybe that's something that's instilled, you know what I mean? Being, you know, I'm second generation already, but I saw it. I saw how my father worked, how my grandfather worked to provide a life for us. And at the end of the day, I learned, you know, if you really want something, you have to work very, very hard for it. You're not, you know, it's not going to be handed to you.
Yeah.
So
I think a lot of us, we were saying earlier, and I think each of our experiences has been different, but it is, you know, when they hear you speak Spanish, or
Yeah.
when they say, you know, how many times have you not gotten, oh, you don't look Mexican, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, what does that look like? You know, what does that look like to you, and what does that mean?
Yeah.
I
Well,
think, sorry. Another thing is that, like, I sound American.
Yeah.
So, like, people are saying that you might be Mexican, right? That's,
well, yeah, if I speak Spanish, they all of a sudden think I'm Mexican. It's never a default to any other Latin culture. They just, it's, oh, you're Mexican. No, I'm Cuban. And that opens up, because there's a lot of mystery around Cuba as well, because Americans think they can't go there when there are flights every day from the US straight there. And it's really just the last administration that kind of ended the boom that happened during the previous administration with opening up trade and commerce over there. You know, and I think that there's a lot of questions about what our dealings with that nation is, because of communism being a bad word in our economy and everything. Yet we work with China, which is a communist nation. Many other communist nations work with us closely and trade with us openly. But like Latin culture in general is just this big question. The U.S. owns Puerto Rico as a territory. That you hear that in how you're taught in school, that we own that. And the imperialistic mindset of owning things puts people below you, of course. And we associate cheaper labor with Mexico, and businesses are moving to Mexico for cheaper labor. So there's all these stigmas of things that cheapen a Latin culture in their minds. And because there's not that exposure of it, and there's not people prominently growing up for me in the spotlight as waving the banner as being Hispanic, I think that is changing now with us as jewelers, as pop stars, as musicians, as actors and actresses, of course, in mainstream winning awards. We're seeing this shift. And the population, of course, is shifting in America, predominantly favoring Hispanics in politics. And in general, we start to see more and more of us. We're more present. So I think that's all changing everything. And
yeah, so what I was going to say about that is, like, I get the opposite reaction, right? Like, someone will be like, oh, you're Latin? I'm like, no, I swear I was born in Argentina and I grew up there for a while. And I'm just like, it is a difference from what you receive from what I receive. But it also is because I'm not looked at maybe as Latin always, or that my experience as an immigrant, you know, was significant because I could pass as an American. I feel like I have to work harder in the sense that, like, I want to bring my culture into my work.
Yeah.
And so, like you were saying, you named yours Curva. Mine are named after my family members, so they're all Spanish and Latin names. And my jewelry, just as an inspiration, comes from my grandmother. And the jewelry she would wear very sculptural designs too, and that's why my new line is named after her. And it draws a lot of comparison to the jewelry she would wear. So I just find that interesting that we're probably the opposite in that sense.
yeah, I find myself being a chameleon wherever I'm at, just taking on the kind of dialect or speaking a little bit like the people that I'm around. So
It happens.
yeah. So.
Even last week, I went to Texas, to El Paso, where I'm from, and someone was saying, "Oh, you don't sound like you're from Mexico City." I'm like, "Let me get back," and I don't really sound, but you know, the accents kind of change, and I think that happens with a lot of Spanish-speaking people, right?
Yeah.
You know, you go to Colombia and you hear the singing, and you're like, you know, they kind of enchant you with the beautiful accent.
Well, like I have to say that before Sofia Vergara, I was like, I need to change my accent, and now it's like, actually, I feel good with my accent.
Yeah, that's great.
She helped me a lot, and now I don't feel embarrassed to pronounce in the way I pronounce things.
She can't lose that accent.
Yeah,
You
she
can't
just
get
carry
rid of
on. So of course, I'm not Sofia Vergara, but she carries so well that I'm like, oh, it's okay, my accent. So, but in my case, I don't know if I was like, I don't know, like 20 years ago when I started here, like going to meetings and to meeting press and like clients and everything, I always say like, I'm from Colombia. Oh, I love it. I'm like, okay, I'm from Colombia. Oh, she's adorable, she's from Colombia. And then everyone was super kind with me and like, I don't know, I feel very welcome when I say like Colombia, and now even more, because before it was like, oh, Colombia, how things are doing there? Is it very dangerous? I'm like,
Yes, I mean, it's either
Yeah.
oh, I'm obsessed
Dangerous.
with it, or
Yeah.
what's going on?
But now it's like,
Can I go
oh
there?
my God,
Do I need a
love it.
bodyguard? No.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, I feel that, like, when I say Colombia, people really welcome me. It's like, oh, I love your country. Wow, Colombia. And then, I don't know, I feel really positive about it. And even more now, it's like, oh, I've been to, and a lot of people now is like, I've been to Cartagena, I've been to na.
And then you
So-
had like a lot of influx of people that moved to Medellin and Bogota
Yes, yeah. like-
during COVID. But and we were talking about it a little bit earlier, but when I started working in fashion in 2000, you know, there was Oscar de la Renta, there was Carolina Herrera, Narciso, Maria Cornejo, Isabel Toledo, you know, like a few of, but now you have, you know, Luar closing
So
New York Fashion Week, Willy Chavarria starting New York Fashion Week, and really kind of embracing this, you know, his Chicano roots. And, you know, we were talking about, I felt like this season in New York was very welcoming to a lot of the Latino designers, and that it felt like a city that's really has a great experience for like young Latinos that want to show here, you know, because in the end, I still think that New York is, yes, the pandemic changed the way we see shows and changed the way brands, you know, present their collections, but I do think that New York is an important place to be.
And also, I feel that, I don't know, every time I come back to New York now, I realize sometimes I don't speak English. In 2 days, and I'm like, this is so weird. Like it's just speaking Spanish everywhere. And the people that I met is like, oh no, I'm American, but I speak perfect Spanish. And then it's like, oh, and then I started speaking Spanish all the time. Like, no, I need to practice my English. So but I find people that speak English. But really, is I think Latino and also Spanish took over, and it's just like it's present in our lives all the time.
Absolutely.
It's just, yeah, it's a fact.
So on this note, what are some of the obstacles that you guys think that Latinos have, you know, to start their own businesses, and how can we as creatives help, you know, the next generation of young Latinos, whether, you know, for me, fashion editors or editors, for jewelry makers, like what do you think that we need to do, or how do you think, what piece of advice would you give them to start their businesses?
Well, so last week I was in LA, and this girl contacted me through Instagram. She says, Vanessa, I know you're really busy. Can you speak to me? I really want to start my own line. And, you know, it does take time. And at that moment, I was like, you know what? I have 5 minutes. And I'm like, here's my number. Call me. And she called me, and I was like, all right, where are you? What are you thinking of doing? I'll connect you with the right people. What did you study? Like, have you gone to GIA yet? What's under your belt? And I just gave her like a play-by-play. And when I got off the phone, I was like, God, it felt so good.
Yeah.
Because when I was in that position, I had no one in the industry.
Not
I'm not,
former bosses, and
well,
kind of.
yeah, kind of, to some
they were,
degree. But
they were also under the umbrella of bigger companies.
Right. And so I'm like, what, starting your own brand is a whole other thing. And it was daunting and scary, and I failed in a lot of ways. But, you know, I felt like so good after that. You know, it was like 20, 30 minutes of my time. And I was able to give her like this play-by-play of what to do, and you can call me anytime. And yeah, I told her, I'm like, when I was in those shoes, I didn't have anybody. I had to figure it out as I went along. And I think that it's our responsibility to help those who are starting, because, you know, we've gotten to where we've gotten to. It's our job to help lift others to our position. you know, as much as possible. So.
I think it's very community driven too. Even when I started in the industry, or these past 2 years, it's the community that you build that will get you to different places, or like where you want to go, right? So you can ask someone like, okay, how do I get into this retailer, or what do I do to start a business, like you said, like, and you can find someone that's like, okay, I'll connect you. And so it is very community driven, especially if you're a minority within this industry.
Yeah, and kids that are in pretty much geographically isolated locations will reach out to me and say, I'm not in a city like LA, what can I do? And I tell them, well, you're doing it right now. You're reaching out to me on Instagram. Take that risk, send a DM to everybody that you're inspired by. That's it, just take the risk. And it took 10 years of being overnight success, is something an artist friend told me, and I was like, oh man, that makes so much sense. It took 10 years to be an overnight success. And that rung so true to me. They're like, oh man, for 10 years I struggled and had no success, no breakthrough moments with a celebrity wearing something, or failing all the time. And when you're doing jewelry, a failure is expensive, you know? So just keep taking those risks, and, you know, don't quit your job and go homeless over it, but make calculated risks that will have you moving forward every day, a little bit, incremental steps towards that goal, and that's it. Reach out to people and create a network, because I'm talking to 70 different jewelers every day in a group chat, and they're all asking what they might think are dumb questions, but man, that dumb question you have took me 6 years to figure out, and here, let me solve that for you in 30 seconds.
And you know what I get a lot too is like, oh my gosh, like you drew that by hand. Can you show me a book that will teach me how to do that? And
Love that question.
I will take the time to go and pull out all the design books, photograph them all, send them out. Like, I care. Like, I want to help, and I think that's we have to do that. You know.
Yeah, we'll tell that for a young designer that the biggest obstacle can be yourself. So it's just like thinking that you have obstacles. No, I think like first being Latino, I think open doors. To completely opposite that is something that it will be against you. I think it's just you against you, thinking that, oh, I'm Latino, maybe I don't have opportunities, or, oh, you know, I don't grow up in this country, oh, I don't have connections. No, like, I am Latino, I am a hustler, because I came from a country that we learn how to hustle, so let's hustle. And then just contact people like in Instagram, or contact people personally, or I don't know, just go, as you Cubans saying, like, you know how to hustle, like Colombians as well, like, or Latinos, we know how to, you know, create our own opportunities. So I think the obstacle is just like yourself. So then just like believe in yourself, and then don't be afraid, and then if you go, what is the worst thing that can happen? That never reply. But then maybe one day reply, and then it can be a door that opens.
You've done it, and at least you tried.
Yeah.
Whereas before you had to like call someone and hope that they answered the phone.
No.
Or if you hadn't, you know, maybe you had their email, but really it was like the cold call.
And I think like really Latinos, we are, I don't know, I feel so proud of being Latina, and I think like Latinos are like in Vogue now. Like we are, like, oh, I'm Latino, good. So it's a good opportunity.
I think we also have to be a little bit crazy and risk takers. I know you're saying do calculated risks, but we're all a little bit crazy, and like we believe in ourselves to the extent we're like, okay, this is what I want to do. I'm gonna figure it out, or if not, like it will be a lesson.
I definitely had to tell my dad at one point, like, Dad, stop ending every phone call with like, you know, if this thing doesn't work out in LA, you can always move back home. I'm like, no, that's not an option. So, you know.
Right, I think that's something that kind of drives us to, you know, you can't just get up and quit. Then you got to move home. You don't want to move home.
Yeah, no.
You want to make it.
Not an option.
But I think something also interesting from the kind of second wave of Latino designers like Johanna Ortiz that brought her line, I believe, in 2014. I remember she came to W to see me. She had been working for 10 years. I mean, I think that's a common misconception, is what you were saying, like the 6 years.
Yeah.
Like it does not happen overnight for people, and that's a lot of what we see. Like in Colombia and Mexico, you see these designers that, you know, think that they're going to sell their entire collections the first New York market season. You probably might not. You probably might sell to one person, maybe no one at all.
Yeah.
And that's something that, you know, it's like know when to grow, I think is important.
But there's nothing more rewarding than risking and betting on yourself, and it pays off. It's so awesome when this thing works out for you. So it's like, I will hope everyone experiences that in everything that they're doing, from fashion to art to technology, whatever you're studying, whatever your passion is, just keep going and keep doing it, because you know, your gauge for success will be different than someone else's. So measure that success in some different way. If you think you're failing, you are still working towards it. And that alone is better than 99% of the other people that aren't even starting. So that's another way to rephrase and rethink things too.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys so much. I think this was such a great conversation to have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, I think it's funny how you know, things come together. And you know, a friend of mine was talking to me about Vanessa a few weeks ago, and then we meet, and Paula, I think I just saw you. She just recently got married, so I saw a lot of friends.
Simon.
But I think these are amazing spaces to get to know different creatives like Rosario, Alligator. You know, I think thank you to the Y and to everyone that was involved in putting this panel together, because I think, you know, it's, yes, Hispanic Heritage Month in October, but I personally think that there's so much work to do for Latinos all year round. I think it's, you know, when I was working in media even 6 years ago, it's not something that no one ever reached out to me saying, you know, we're looking for a Latina editor. So I think it makes me really happy that these initiatives are going on. And every year I meet new people because I always give a different talk or host a panel or something. And I think it's really interesting. So thank you all. Thank you all for coming. And I hope you start following these amazing Latino creatives.
Thank you.